Okay, you guys, I could not be more excited to be back in front of the camera because I have so much good information to share with you guys. Listen, I know that it's been a definite dry zone for me in recording and posting YouTube videos, but my biggest goal with my YouTube channel is to make sure that I'm relaying useful content, and I had to make sure that I had some more experience before I provided you with useful, legitimate, real content. So I apologize if you have had hard feelings because I haven't been producing that, but I wanted to make sure that I was ready before I got back in front of the camera. So I'm going to show you so many examples of what I've learned in bookkeeping over the last couple of months, and I'm going to do it in a series all about the basics of bookkeeping. So I've done some videos, which I'll try to post here and down below, about the basics of bookkeeping if you've never been to this channel before. I'll also post week 1 of my bookkeeping journey, which started almost a year ago. But this series is going to be about each foundational piece of bookkeeping, and the first one I'm going to tackle today is accounts receivable. So I'm going to do a very different style of presentation with my videos for this series, where I give you a presentation through Google Slides. Sorry, that's coming from my teacher perspective, but I thought that it was nice to maybe not look at my face and to look at some content. I will also be diving into some like day in the life of a bookkeeper videos and kind of taking you back through the process, similar to the video that I made on what does a bookkeeper actually do. But I want to make sure that this one's really clear and concise about some of the foundations before I show you the mess of an office that I have for bookkeeping. So in this video, you'll see the presentation. I also posted it down below as a downloadable PDF. It's nothing fancy, but it's something there for you that I hope that you'll use and enjoy. I am gonna get into it. Okay, by the way, I don't know if you can see this shirt and it's super faded, but if you've been asking me what course I endorse or whether I have a bookkeeping course, which I don't, there is a course coming really, really soon that has everything I would endorse in a bookkeeping course. I'll make some appearances within the course and I'll be a part of the community. But what I want you to do is, if you've been dreaming about something that's budget friendly, but is going to give you the content that you need directly and not make you any promises of getting rich quick, it's this course. Go down below and in the description, I have a website where you can go and join the waitlist for the Everything Bookkeeping community. And I promise you, it's gonna be worth it. Okay, so let's jump into it. Please leave me your opinions of this presentation down in the comments. This is very different than my normal YouTube videos, but I thought that maybe switching things up, taking a little page from my book and teaching that this might be a better way to deliver the content. So I'm going to go through accounts receivable, the basics. There's a little picture of moi. And let's move in. Accounts receivable is very simply the money that is coming in to a business. Accounts receivable truly means the money that a business is receiving from their customers or clients. You are responsible for tracking these transactions as a bookkeeper from the moment the money is expected to come in to when it actually does. And I think that's one of the biggest things about accounts receivable that can kind of seem like more confusing than it needs to be, or maybe not as confusing as you need to understand that it is that just because you think money is coming into a business doesn't mean it's there yet. But your job as a bookkeeper is to make sure that you're communicating, hey, we're expecting this money, we don't have it yet. Or, hey, we're expecting this money and it's already received and been deposited into the business bank account. The timeline of accounts receivable is important to understand in connection to what I was just going over. So let's say that the business completes a service or provides a product for a customer or client. This is on the left-hand side. Well, then on the right-hand side, you as a bookkeeper are going to create an invoice to send to that customer client. So something has been done, a service or a good has been provided. You need to have the process of creating an invoice or a bill to send to that person so that they say, hey, I know I need to send your business money. Now, sometimes in bookkeeping, are already processes where the business owner makes those invoices, or they have secretarial staff that makes those invoices and sends them. But more often than not, that's going to fall on the bookkeeper. But then you have to mark that the income has come in. So let's go back to the left-hand side. Let's say that customer or client has received the invoice that you sent to them, and that invoice has been created in your accounting software, etc. And then they receive the invoice. Well, then the customer or client, hypothetically, is going to then send money back to your business. So it's already been marked in your accounting software that you're expecting the money. The customer gets the invoice, they send money to the business. And so then to the right, you as the bookkeeper, the business's bookkeeper, are going to mark that income as being paid towards that invoice. So the other thing is that, these customers might not be standalone. They might be customers that your business regularly, provides a service for. So what's going to happen is that you're providing a new service for a new invoice while you're also expecting that old money to come in. So it's important that you mark that money that comes in towards the right invoice and not towards one for the future or towards the past. Additionally, you need to mark the transaction in the bank feed as the sale. So this is going to really tie into reconciliation at the end of the month, making sure that the bank feed is correct with the invoice and what's being paid within that given time period so that things match up. But if the customer or client does not pay their invoice, you may have to initiate further communication to track down that payment. And this may require more paperwork on your end, including making a secondary invoice to say, look, you're past your 30 days. You're not current with your bill. This is now moved into 60 days past when it was supposed to be paid. And additional late fees may need to be charged to that original amount. So these are all kind of systems that the business owner needs to kind of communicate to you as to how they want you to proceed with those things. And again, it may not fall onto your shoulders as the bookkeeper, but more often than not, it's going to in the whole grand scheme of accounts receivable. Additionally, if you're thinking about this as a business owner, accounts receivable is one of the most important things that you're focused on. You're focused on the money that your business is making. So accounts receivable is very high stakes because this is how your business is going to function. You can't even move into accounts payable if you haven't received money for then your business to therefore spend itself. Okay, so let's go through example number one. I do bookkeeping for a property management business. I just started that within the last couple of months. So the accounts receivable for that business looks different than it would maybe for a farming business, which I'll go through in my second example. It's important that you understand that this is an example using the accounting software Propertyware. So biggest accounts receivable for this company is that tenants are going to pay their rent. And so all of this, like I said, is done in Propertyware, which obviously is a property management software. But the tenants are going to pay their rent, and I may not receive that money. I do this actually virtually, so I do nothing on site for this company. So they have landlords or property management employees that actually collect the payment. I do not. And then that person is going to go to the bank and they're going to deposit those funds. So I'm going to go and I'm going to check the bank feeds for money that comes in. And when I see that money has come into the bank feed, then I need to view the details of that money that's come in. And the system that this business has already set up is that that property management employee is going to, on the deposit slip, write the name of the tenant that that's going for. And they'll also mark whether that's cash or check. And then as I view those details, then it's my job to record that within the Propertyware software. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to create a credit towards the tenant that and their rent bill that has come from. So I need to know who it's from and what type of deposit it was and the amount. And I'm also going to need to make sure that I apply it towards the correct bill. So again, a tenant could be behind and I need to know where to apply that to. And very often this is going to take communication between me and the business owners so that I know whether they want me to apply this to the late charges or to their current month's bill. Now, if they're up to date on their rent, then I know that goes towards the current rent bill. But then I also need to apply this towards an undeposited funds first. So what happens is that I see it in the bank feed But really, the process that needed to happen is that as soon as that property management employee collected the rent, that's really when it needed to have been marked in PropertyWare. But since I don't have access to that, I only see when it came into the bank feed. I'm going to make sure that I mark that it was undeposited first and then close the deposit since it's actually already gone into the bank account and mark it to the correct bank account. Completely separate example from this is what accounts receivable would look for a farming business. I've been working with a small agricultural business here in my county for the last couple of months, and they use the accounting software QuickBooks Desktop. Not QuickBooks Online, but QuickBooks Desktop. So let's say for accounts receivable that a customer pays for straw. So the way that I'm going to be alerted that money has come in is that I'm going to receive a check in the mail. And I do actually go on site for this customer and for this client. So I have a lot of paperwork in my hands that I have to sort through, which is very different from the last example. So let's say I receive a check in the mail. Well, I'm obviously going to open that up. I'm going to see who it's from. And in the memo, generally, it's going to mark what it's for. Sometimes it doesn't. That's a little bit harder. I have to do a little bit more detective work. But let's say it says straw in the memo. Well, then I'm going to go and I'm going to check the invoices that were handwritten by the business owner. So the system that he has set up is that when he provides a service or a good like straw to a client, he's going to handwrite out an invoice and give it to me and put it in a stack in my office at his location. And so what I'll generally do is I'll take that invoice and I'll actually create an invoice either within QuickBooks Desktop or Microsoft Word, just to make sure that I know and kind of process that what the service he's provided has come to my desk. But let's say that I haven't. Well, I'm going to check the invoices and I'm going to make sure that the check that I received is marked or matched to an invoice. If it's not, then I'm going to have to do more communicating with my business owner, with my client, to make sure that I know who this is going towards, what bill this is going towards. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a copy, a photocopy of the check. I know that this is old school, but it's a nice way of keeping record keeping, just nice and clear and concise. But I'm going to take a printer copy of that check and attach it to the copy of the invoice that my business owner has made. Then I'm going to create an invoice in QuickBooks if I haven't already done so, and mark the money in as received payments. So I create it within QuickBooks. I attach that it's been paid and what date that that check just came into me. And then I'm going to create a deposit slip for the owner to deposit at the bank, because this accounts receivable needs to make sure that it ends up as money in the bank so that he can use it. And therefore, he's going to take the deposit slip with that check that we received to the bank to deposit for his business. And then once it gets marked there, then I will mark it in the reconciliation at the end of the month that everything is matching up accordingly. You guys, accounts receivable is important. But if we don't know the process that we have to do on the bookkeeping end, then it can be really confusing for a business owner. I hope that this has been helpful. Please leave me comments down below, and you'll find a downloadable copy of this slideshow in the description notes.